This is Thursday morning, Lancaster Woodturners weekly coffee hour on Zoom. I see 33 on screen, which is pretty typical at the start of the hour. We usually get up closer to 40 or into the 40s before the hour is over. So welcome everybody. This is a show and tell morning. Before we start going on, though, I got a little housekeeping I want to discuss with you all. You might have noticed this week I only sent one email instead of two. I'm going to do that from now on because it's just getting more clerking than I want to do. So I'm going to send the Zoom links out with the invitation on Wednesdays each week. Um, Most of you people are regulars here anyhow, and I would like you all to understand that I use the same Zoom link every week. If you don't get the email, you can just use last week's link, it'll work. Before I used one Zoom link for a year and a half, and when I upgraded my Zoom, I got a new Zoom link, and I'm going to use that until there is a reason to change it, and haven't seen one yet. So that simplifies the inviting process. The videos have been a trial because it's a lot of editing and then blurb writing. And I tried an experiment for a few weeks of not writing any blurbs, and the views dropped by half. So I'm back to sticking blurbs on them, and the views are climbing back up there again. In fact, Bert's little squib on his explosion has 208 views as of this morning, and I only posted it yesterday. So if I neglect to send you video links, they're always going to show up on the Lancaster area woodturners.org website, and they're also going to show up on my own YouTube channel, which is John Kelsey Artisan. So if you miss my email, or if I have a brain fart and don't send it one week, or whatever happens, it's always out there, and you don't need the links to find it. You find my channel, you find the current videos. You find the Lancaster site, you find the current videos. They're all there. Mike Junkerth is our webmaster, and he does a pretty good job of getting them posted up on the into their correct pages on the club site as soon as I post them on YouTube. So that what I'm trying to do is move toward having this coffee hour be a little more self-sustaining, with a little less hand-holding from me. And so with one email a week simplifies my life a bunch. That's because I manage the mailing list, which is 150 people, using numbers or Excel. And I've learned that if Zoom gets emails with more than 50 or so BCCs on it, it flags you as a spammer and the emails don't go out. So I break the email list into 3 lists, and I send 3 different emails. And doing that twice a week it doesn't take all that long because I've gotten pretty good at it, but it's just, geez, I forgot to do the emails again. So I'm trying to simplify all that. And along with that as well, I think that this fall, because of some personal reasons, well, the personal reason is my wife and I own an apartment in Manhattan that we're going to sell, and that's going to have me here emptying out the apartment a lot. That's where I am right now. I'm in New York emptying out the apartment, helping empty out the apartment. It's going to take a while. There's going to be some weeks when I'll have trouble showing up, but you guys are pretty good at this. I mean, there's a bunch of you guys who know how to moderate these things, and there's a bunch of you who have practiced doing it in clubs. So I don't know. I guess I'd like to have a situation where if I don't make it, coffee hour happens anyhow. Most of you are absolute regulars. You come every week. So if I'm not here, moderate it yourselves and have a nice coffee hour. I bet it'll work. Anybody want to talk about any of that?
Hey, John, maybe I need to relieve some of the burden by editing the pieces for you, although you've gotten really efficient at it, but I don't have to write the blurbs.
The blurbs are the problem. The editing is not that big a deal anymore because I've gotten good at it, and I'm using in what I did. I don't know. I might have said this before, but what I did is I joined Alan Zenreich's Lucid Technologies group, which gives me access to a much better Zoom account. It doesn't cost a whole lot more than the standard Zoom account, but I could have 300 screens instead of 100. And it gives us excellent recordings. The recordings that come out on that Zoom creates and posts that I can download, or you can download if I give you the link, are very good. It makes a speaker view and a gallery view. And then Bowman has been teaching me how to edit videos in DaVinci Resolve. I've been editing for 2 years, almost 3 years, using the Mac program iMovie, which is very good, but very limited. And I've reached its limits. There's lots of things I've found workarounds to do that are really tedious. And now that I'm learning Resolve, I love it. It's a very efficient. I can merge the two videos in the way that whatever I want very efficiently and quickly. So editing isn't the problem. It's, do I have the stamina to cough up another blurb? Usually it's, I'm a writer by profession, and it's usually not very hard for me. But on the other hand, there's some days, oh, what do I say about this? So, so, so if I don't write blurbs, the videos don't get seen. So, and I do follow the practice. I put the whole thing out, and then if anybody has made a coherent presentation, I break that out as a separate video. I figure those videos are more valuable and easier to find. I mean, some people watch the whole video every week quite religiously. We have a following of guys who always watch the videos, and I know that. But also, if I get them out with blurbs and they're single topics and one little coherent chunk, that gathers views from a much wider audience over time. So that's what I prefer to do and try to do each week. And it's gotten quite efficient. And yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I just want you guys to understand that if I don't show up, there's no reason Coffee Hour can't go on.
Wouldn't
Bowman
wouldn't
has
somebody, John, wouldn't somebody have to have your account to open the session?
No, the session opens if you just log in. I mean, if you click the link, I mean, I didn't come on this morning until quarter of. There were already 8 guys here when I got here. I'm not sure you can record it, but you can certainly have it. And Bowman has the links as well. Bowman has access to it, and if he doesn't, I'll make sure he does. And anybody else who'd like to participate at that level, I'll be glad to share the links and access to the account with you. So there's
I would just suggest, John, that however you accept to fill in for you in those occasions has some DJ capability, the patter that goes on and encourages conversation and such. It's like we all have the turntable, but we wouldn't have the guy standing there unless somebody steps up that can play the tunes,
Well, the tune, I'll tell you what the tune is. There's a secret to moderating these things, and the secret is to shut up and let other people talk. And that's the hardest thing, of course. The people who become moderators of these kinds of meetings tend to be the kind of people who can talk all for the full hour if you give them a chance. What I've learned is my role here is to encourage you guys to show stuff and talk and to get out of the way and let you do it and put the spotlight on you so everybody can see what you're doing and showing. So anybody who wants to try moderating one of these things, and I'd be fine to hand that over, and just participate. If somebody would like to be under moderator or sue moderator or whatever you call it, and do what I'm doing, I'd be happy to encourage you to try that, and I'll work with you to perfect your skills. But the main skill is to learn how to button your own lip.
Well, that's just
John,
limited a bunch of us.
Hey, John, what was that video editing software you're using?
I'm using DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci, okay.
Yeah, it comes with the ATEM people. They're the people who make the ATEM. It was a little bit of a steep curve, but not very. But I know InDesign and Photoshop, and that helps a lot. And I got pretty good with iMovie, and those skills translate over. It's not all that different. If you can edit in iMovie, you could pick up Resolve pretty quick. Bowman gave me a couple of tutorials that really helped, and I feel pretty good about it right now.
I have a PDF of all the shortcuts I use in the way I approach it, and I gave that to John, and I'm adding to that every time. It's a free software unless you want the real top pro, and I'm a pro editor from my professional life, and I found no need to go above the free version. I mean, I have a certain way I edit. You can approach it many different ways, but my PDF would give you a lot of the shortcuts real quick. I'd be willing to share it. I have no problem with doing that.
I'll send that out
Put that on the link,
next.
or can you send it out? Because I use Resolve as well, and it's a steep learning curve, but it's a great program. But I can't remember everything when I bring it up. And so a PDF with shortcuts would be
I'll send that PDF out with next week's links.
John, I need to update it because I added a bunch of really neat stuff.
I'll get it from you before I send it. I'll get the current version before I send it. Yeah.
Yeah, Bert, I'm being an old guy now. I keep my PDF handy so I can open up or make additional notes. So.
Yeah, I've got a good memory. It's perfectly clear. It's just getting shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah, I know that. Anybody else on this? Okay. I guess as a side note, as part of it, I see Dave Delo has his hand up. Dave probably doesn't even realize that he was the host for a while on Saturday at the Instant, no, on Sunday at the Mid-Atlantic. My our Wi-Fi Netgear hotspot kicked out for a little while, and everybody got a nice big picture of Dave on the screen because he was co-host. And then we got it back up, and we got the hosting came right back to us. We didn't have to do anything. So that was a very interesting thing about Zoom. If you designate a co-host, that co-host will become the host if the host drops off, and the host can return and reclaim it. It's really quite marvelous. That I was afraid if the Netgear kicked out, we'd lose the whole thing and have to start over. But by having a co-host named, it didn't do that.
Dave, the attendance went way up when your face appeared.
Yeah, yeah, it was like Rockstar.
Well, I hope I wasn't picking my nose or anything like
You
that.
were just looking dumb. You were just looking at the screen like you are now. I didn't know it until I looked at the video. And then I said, "Oh, well, that's what happened there."
Carbide tip chisels are best for digging your nose. So.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, I see a whole bunch of hands up, and it is a show and tell morning. So I'm going to just mow through them. Dave, you're first. If anybody has a long presentation, please say so now so I know it. So I'll have you last, and we'll do the short stuff.
I'm about 5 or 6 minutes, John.
Go for it.
You got me highlighted. Okay. Share screen. Now, do you see it?
Yep.
Okay. Let me maximize that. Okay. So here we go. A log processing center and other devices. Here, I'm picking up a 15-inch box elder blank last year. So everybody take a good look, because that's the last time I am ever going to try muscling up a blank into the back of the SUV.
I was going to say about that picture that why are you picking it up that way? You're guaranteed to hurt your back.
So anyway, so after several years of contemplating, I'm glad Mike Peace is on today. Okay, so here's my version of the log lifter. Okay, and don't laugh, Mike. All right, but it works. It works very well. I've had some nice pieces on here, and that's what I wanted to show here today. This is just my log processing center and a couple different stands that I'm using to further process the log halves, and I'll get into that in just a minute. But I wanted to show you a quick little video here of what I came into on Monday morning. So I don't know if Dave Landers is on today, but he'd be happy that I'm in full uniform, steel toes, chaps, heavy jacket, face protection, ear protection. But I would recommend that when you're using a chainsaw, whether it's an electric or battery or gas powered, that you use proper safety protection. But so I run into a nice oak log, red oak.
Very cool.
So there we go. Now
very cool.
On the
do that again. Now, let's see that log lifter again.
Get over to the Can I just mention the failure point that I found is that hinge. You've almost got to put a bolt through it.
Well, I put your video shows number 5 hinges. I put a number 6 on here, and because I wanted to do bigger work. So
good idea.
It is a little bit better. So, but I'm going to probably reinforce that over time.
That is very cool.
Now, WoodWeb website says an 18-inch red oak log, 24 inches, is 232 pounds. And I'd say that was pretty accurate. because after I take out, an inch and a half, 2 inches of the pith, and I had to cut this one down because their notch was on one end of this particular piece. I would say that log weighed a little over 200 pounds. This, the blank on the left is 70 and the one on the right is 65. So
hold it a sec, Dave. You got the log in your car. How do you get it to here?
Oh, I just roll it out onto the ground. Okay, it's a short distance, so I just roll it out, let it drop on the ground. Then I roll it over to my outside log processing center, if you will. Okay.
But how do you lift it up there?
I roll it over and just lift one end of it up. It gets it up onto these 6x8 pith boards that I have, and so it works out. It's not even this one, as heavy as it wasn't all that bad to maneuver around.
Could you use the log lifter to get it up there?
No, that one's a little bit too high, and I'm probably going to build another one for outside use. Okay, so it doesn't have to be so high. I've got two SUVs. Well, I got a Mountaineer, and then that one was the Envoy, and the tailgates are just different. So I kind of split the difference. So to work on both of those, and that's a permanent structure, if you will. Okay, but this is my no, this is nothing unique. The plans for this are all over the internet as far as the log processing center, and then I got a convertible top so that I can do some painting of the blank. But then the stands that I made, I can do bark up or bark down. Okay, I got a cradle system, or I'm splitting one of them in half. That's the convertible. But this is what I did on the one. This is my favorite one. So these are all scrap pieces that I had in the shop. I got no money in it. And don't laugh. Barry Price will probably come on here in 2 weeks with some pneumatic lifter and servo motors on it to rotate it and everything. Okay. But so I got, I think these are 2.5-inch screws sticking up, and the scrap pieces that I got take up about 2.25 inches. So I'm sticking up about a 1/4 of an inch or so, and I just jam the blank down onto it. And there's a picture of the cradle, and so that's how I can cut the corners off of the blank and then just throw it up onto the machine, okay, onto the lathe. And this is the cradle here. But the whole thing is I'm just sick and tired of working off of the ground or working low. This puts everything at waist high. I don't have to try to, these are kind of heavy blanks. I don't have to worry about a bandsaw. I very rarely ever use the bandsaw for anything like this anymore.
Why not?
It's just one more machine to clean off. Okay, if you're working with wet wood, I got one more item to clean off, and this is good enough. I can spin these blanks at 500 RPM and get a nice easy cut off of it. The tool isn't, the gouge isn't bouncing up and down. I get a nice easy cut, and I'm, slam bam, here we go.
Are you mounting those between centers, or are you using a screw?
I use a screw a lot of the times. I will put on this red oak that I'm going to get to here maybe this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I'm going to put those on a faceplate. Those are 70 pounds. So I'm just not sure about anything but a faceplate.
Any questions for Dave?
Just one comment. Check out the faceplate rings, because once you put that on, it's so much easier to lift it and hook it over the jaws of your chuck without having to spin it.
I have the Axminster, but I got the smaller one, the Clubman, and I just this particular piece is a little bit too big for that particular chuck. But that is what I'd like to do.
What kind of
Dave,
screws do you use
Dave, I
with your
do have a,
faceplate? What kind of
So
screws do you use with your faceplate?
sheet metal screws, stainless sheet metal screws.
Barry? Barry, you're on.
oh, yeah, a recommendation I do have, Dave, of course, is modify the log lifter so it's adjustable just by putting some little saw teeth in the lower, in the 2x4 set that that it rides on, and little metal projections on your piece, on your whatever you want to call that the log is resting on, the cross piece.
Platform.
And by just ratcheting it down, the up or down the notches, you can get it to the height you want for different vehicles and for different end purposes in your shop.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not quite following what you mean, Barry, but maybe a sketch or maybe you'll do one of those one day soon.
Yeah, yes, I hope Dave understands. We're talking about like on the long rails that have been hinged on the lower part, which is where the cradle, if you will, mounts. If that part had saw teeth edges cut in it,
Oh, I see. Yeah, got it.
curves, that
No.
so that a metal stop or even a wooden stop would naturally settle into it. You could, like in 2-inch gradients or whatever, make it adjustable.
Yeah.
Anybody else on this?
Yeah, or just put in one or two more wooden stops, so you got a couple of more slot choices. That'd be pretty simple.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I'm impressed. You're moving me to do something similar because I can't lift logs anymore, and I got some logs I want to process, and they're lying out of my yard, and it's more than I want to do. So yeah.
I got a video on that showing at the time, my 6-year-old shop fairy granddaughter lifting a pretty good size Bradford pear piece into my car.
Bradford pear is exactly what I'm looking to work with next. I got another pear tree bit the dust this year, so great. Okay, Mike, you're talking. You're next up. Go for it. What do you got today?
Okay, I got inspired by Toby. After a conversation with Dave Delo, I wound up with
Bring it back closer to your face so we can see it.
a one-way coring system with just the smallest knife. So I was able to salvage a little piece of cherry burl out of a larger blank, and then I wound up doing some dyeing on it. And then
Are you happy with what you got there?
Yeah, that's what that is, cherry burl.
Are you okay with the color?
I might do better on the next one. It's okay.
It looks like it's blotchy and like maybe more constant. Toby uses very thin color. He's here. He'll tell you about it.
It is a little blotchy, I think, because of the burl, but it's a work in progress. Then I've been in production mode on birdhouse ornaments. This is a design by Michael Keyes. Had an article in American Woodturner a few years ago. I just really like this design.
Nice design.
And then I've been making wooden birds. People ask, where do you buy the little birds? And I turn the little birds, and the trick is, instead of putting it on the perch, it's got a little piece of wire through it, so the CA will hold it just fine with that little reinforcing wire with a little hole drilled in the roof. And it, the profile looks nice with the profile, on the roof, and they're kind of fun. Little laminated walnut against a lighter wood kind of shows the wings.
Nice.
That's all.
That's
Mike.
all?
Mike, what's the small coring system you used? I'm interested.
Well, it's not a small system. It's the one-way system, but somebody gave me the one-way base, and it was for a 16 or an 18-inch lathe, and mine is a 20. Well, what I found out was the difference between the 1618 is the slug. I think some of this was covered in an earlier video by somebody. And so I made a larger slug, and I figured it would be tolerable on my 20-inch lathe if I only used the smallest knife. And so far, it's working.
I thought I was looking at the smaller devices. One Way makes a smaller one for the MIDI lathes, but
No, I don't think try it, but I don't think you're going to be happy trying to core with a small lathe. You just don't have enough motor
I have a
motor
16.
power.
No, I have a 16-inch XP from Nova, and it would have the power. I was looking at the smaller cutting device just because I didn't want to invest in the big one.
Well, but the smaller one is set for a 12-inch lathe.
Ah, okay, I didn't know
You
that.
got to cut on center. So if you got a 16-inch lathe, you get a 16-inch system. You got an 18-inch lathe, you order an 18-inch, which is a 16-inch base with a slug in it that raises it up a little bit.
So you could do that. You could tailor it to the lathe you have by putting some kind of a slug in there to raise it, or put it on a maybe
to some limited degree, but not if you get the one for a MIDI lathe. I don't think that's going to work.
They have another one that has has only one blade, but it's made. Yeah, I'll look at it more closely. So.
Yeah. Is that it from you?
That's it.
All right. I'm going to go to Barry because he got shut out last week. Barry, what do you got?
Mine's just a show and tell. Many of the people saw it who are club members and joined us, but for the contest, Halloween contest, we had a Halloween exercise. And so given the occasion, I made this pumpkin, and I was really pleased with how it turned out. I did put it was the true cherry color, and I put a real several watered down color layers of yellow dye to get it more like orangish. And I was very pleased with how it turned out.
Is that staves, or how did you make that?
No, it was made of 4 pieces. Ideally, it would have been made from a single block, but I happen to have a lot of 3.5-inch square lengths of cherry that had blemishes or knots or whatever, so frequent that I couldn't use it for making a bedpost or anything of any length. And so I never could throw it out though. And with this, all I needed was 8-inch long pieces. So I cut out 4 nice 8-inch pieces and glued them into a bigger rectangle. You can.
Okay. So, but how did you make the valleys in there? How did you make the cuts? What did you use?
Many of you have seen some version of my spiraling jig. Well, if you take off the drive belt, it no longer spirals, and it just cuts straight. And so the cutter that I have used for it positions a router right at the center of the head. And I put a CNC 3/16 bit in that router, and I have like a nose piece on the router that I can adjust to how deep the cutter protrudes out of the housing. And so I set it for about a 1/4-inch depth, and just just ran it around perpendicular to the surface, and then indexed it over. I used the indexing set for 12 pieces. Just ran the indexing system and made a cut. And it was my first experience using, they weren't saber bits, but they were almost the same thing. Cutsall makes them. Maybe Cutsall makes saber too, I don't know, but they're different degrees of aggressiveness. Then I also stumbled upon using a hand rasp that I showed It's a very interesting tool. It's a Japanese-made tool that is, its brand name is Shinto, Shinto, and it comes in two different lengths, and it comes with they all have a handle on the one end, and you can buy a version that has an upright handle on the other end. So you're using it, the two hands together. But it does its cutting by, it has a series of what are essentially bandsaw blades that have been riveted together into a diamond pattern. So altogether, it's about 1.5 inches wide and 10 inches of cutting length. And on one face is teeth that I'm guessing are probably about 10 teeth per inch or 12 teeth per inch. And on the fine side, they're about 20 teeth per inch. And it really will remove wood. And you can, on any convex surface, you can just follow the curve, and it's, I just fell in love with the thing for convex work like
Does it
this.
work? Does it work better than a Sureform rasp?
Oh, yes. Now I have to say, my Sureform rasp has seen better days, but to your finger, it still feels quite sharp. And the Trueform rasp does not cut right into its edge, right to its corner. You know, there's the cast metal housing that the blade is in, prevents it from going down into a corner all the way. Whereas the Shinto tool, your outer edge is saw blade. And that's good news, bad news. You can cut a groove you didn't mean to, but it was very useful on refining the grooves in the bottoms of the pumpkin slots.
Indeed. That's a nice piece. Questions for Barry? Okay. Thanks, Barry. I'm going to pick around on the list rather than, let me see. I'd like to hear from people we haven't heard from. So John Chalikian, we haven't heard from you in a while. What do you have today?
Unmute myself. I have this is an ash bowl that I turned.
Nice.
And
let's see the foot of that again. Show the bottom again. That was a nice looking bottom. Nice work.
Thank you. And this is a cherry bowl from my neighbor, just cut off a limb. And actually, the point of these is that I used desiccant to dry these. This is the particular one that I bought, dry. And there was an article in the AAW magazine, I guess the last one, on desiccants. And so both of these bowls I turned green, and I have a 5-gallon bucket, plastic bag, and I poured the gel, meant to have some other ones here. See if I can get this. These things are a little squirrely. I don't know if I can see these without spilling them all over the place.
Yeah, we can see
little
beads. Yeah,
little beads. And the neat thing with them, when they absorb too much moisture, they turn pink. And so it works really well.
Do they suck the moisture out of the wood somehow?
Yeah, it's a desiccant, just like, little bags that you have.
Yeah.
Comes in just about everything. It sucks the moisture out. This dried in I think it was 3-4 days. And then I rough turned it and then I returned it. This one was a couple of days. Interesting, after it came out, lengthwise, it was 5 inches across. And then across the grain, it was 4 13/16. So it was an oval. And then I returned it. But there weren't a lot of cracks. I didn't have, the drying cracks that, a lot of times happen. So the desiccants work. They're expensive. I got two of these bottles. These are like gallon size. They sell them by the pound. This was 8 pounds, so I had like 16 pounds, and I believe it was about $70. I don't think the brand matters. Just go on the internet and put in for desiccants and a
How
bunch
do
of
you dry it back out
You
again,
can
John?
put those in a toaster oven,
right.
any recirculating oven, and actually reverse the process and dry them out again so
Yeah.
that you can use them over and over.
I did that to a bunch that had started to didn't turn real heavy pink, but they were going reddish, pinkish. So I put them in the microwave, and I put it in there for, I think, 2 or 3 cycles of like a minute or so, and it dried them out. I'm still looking, because these are so squirrely, and they kind of, if you're not careful, they can get all over the place. I need to come up with some way to have it in a nice tray and something that'll pour out and, work that way. So I still have to get that together, but it works really well.
I'm
Doesn't-
talking about the desiccant, though. You can put the desiccant in an oven and
That's what
yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I put the desiccants in the microwave. Yeah, you could do it in the oven too.
yeah, I have a video online. It's on my website, our YouTube channel, on the Woodworkers Journal tab, and it's Dave Hout has developed a system for this that is basically you can put together yourself. But he feels that microwaves damage the desiccant.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay,
So
I hadn't heard about that.
A convection oven would be the better way to go. A little
Yeah.
convection toaster oven.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I can contribute on that, Ernie and John. I wear hearing aids, and years ago I had a hearing aid dryer, a little jar of desiccant, probably the same product. It was like ceramic beads, and they were like charcoal gray, and they turned dull pink when they were absorbed moisture. And the instructions just said put them in the microwave, and it's kind of like recharging a NiCad battery. The first couple recharges, it fully drains and it has nice power, but nobody can find a way to make a NiCad battery that lasts, that can be reused over and over, and it never loses its functionality. The same with these beads. If you use the microwave, there's something about it that after about now drying these hearing aids like every night, and after about 5 months, which is a lot of cycles, I'll agree, it's like 150 cycles, but they would no longer turn as pink, and they would not go back to the same shade of gray. They were somewhere in between. So I think a toaster oven is better than a microwave, is the bottom line.
Okay,
Cool.
That's
I
good.
would not be surprised that it's not the silica gel that is a problem, it's the indicator that is failing. And most
Right.
of the indicators which turn colors are metal salts. And I wouldn't think metal salts in microwaves make much sense. But the silica probably keeps regenerating, but the indicator probably fails if I had to guess. But yeah, I think metal salts, microwaves don't go together. In my book.
Bruce is a retired chemist, so he has special knowledge here.
Okay.
Well, I have you on the screen there, John. How did you like the Mid-Atlantic?
Oh, I liked it very much. Got a lot of different information. Been trying to process it all, and I was assisting. I was being a videographer, so I didn't. On 4 of them that I worked, I was not able to keep all the notes or get notes to remember everything that was said. But yeah, I was really surprised at how much I learned, and yeah, it was a real nice experience. Certainly do it again.
Cool. Any more questions for John, or should we move on? Okay, thank you, John.
One other thing, the
Go ahead.
article in the AAW, I don't remember which article, but it was just this past year, maybe the last one. The person who wrote the article did a lot of research, and there's a lot of good information in there, and a lot of detailed charts and so forth. So it's worth checking out.
And you can find it using their search utility on their website. There's still a reasonable search that helps you find things. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Ray Simmons, haven't heard from you in a while either. What do you got?
Thank you, John. Kind of to piggyback some of the stuff that Kyle's been talking about. This is, let me get this up here. This was a rug hooking tool. This is just turned from stock brass with a spindle gouge. So you just turn careful.
Well, how do you make the hook, Ray?
I hand did the hook.
With the file?
Yeah, with a small file, and then cut the ferrule out of a piece of brass stock. So.
And you do the brass work on a wood lathe?
Yeah, turn it with a spindle gouge.
With a spindle gouge?
Yeah. Yeah, this one is one of them little multi-point screwdrivers that you get.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a bunch of them that were giveaways. So I turned wooden handles, and the ferrule is a plumbing compression fitting. So, and that was turned also with a spindle gouge.
Very cool.
If anybody, people, we were talking about that, and people, hesitancy to do that, but tools today, the wood turning tools, typical tools are high-speed steel, and the bits you cut for metal lathe are high-speed steel. I mean, it's.
But it's a matter of angles, isn't it? I mean, when I
Yes.
tried to learn metal turning, it was all about rake angles.
Correct. And what happens, I think, though, when people try to use the carbide tools, they use a carbide tool like they tell you to use them flat, and that's a scraping move. That doesn't work when you're trying to hand hold it. On a metal lathe, it's locked in place. On a wood lathe, any movement whatsoever, then it self-feeds. But if you use a shearing cut, very light, it'll just peel it right off. And now this, somebody called me the other day and said, what do you use for ferrules? And I said, well, this is a hex compression nut. And I've done a lot of them with that. The only thing you have to be sure of is the nut has to be true. If it's off a little bit, and when you cut it down, you end up seeing thread lines. It's kind of funny. You're turning, and all of a sudden the thing starts to unpeel. But that both done with spindle gouge.
All right. Questions for Ray? Okay. Thank you, Ray. That's a good tip. Let me see. Oh, I haven't heard from him for a while. Bert, you got a follow up for last week, I think, do you?
I just got a real quick one here. My niece just had a baby boy, and I got
That's a good book. Your audio's gone, Bert. I think you're exceeding the gain on your speaker or something.
I was holding my space bar down, but apparently it doesn't like that. So anyway, I was just making a rattle for my niece. She just had a baby boy here last week. And so I had to try this, making a rattle, turned rattle. You can hardly see where the split is. And I got the inspiration out of Raffin's Turning Toys book. It's great. It's a lot of fun. And after the oak, this is out of the same kind of oak that blew apart on me. When I glued it all back together, I thought, hey, that's pretty neat. You can't even see the brake lines. So I had to try and make one of these rattles. That's it.
Very cool.
Where are the joints in that rattle?
The joints, I'll see if I can get it up there. It's really, really hard to see, but on the book it says to split it on the medular rays. You don't split it on the grain line, you split it crossways and you rive it and just let it split where it wants to split. And then you hollow it, you mount it sideways and spin it and hollow the cavity out and then do the other piece. And then when you put them back together, it's really hard to find where the actual split is. And yeah, it was an interesting experience, and it works. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it.
Did you wear your face shield?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, I have to say a couple of words about that. I looked at that. I'm still recovering from that video. That's amazing how that split. And I have to say a couple of things. One is, when you said you put it back together and it went together perfect, that rang a bell. That was not the fault of the tool, and that was not the fault of high-speed turning. When you cut those staves, you probably cut them from one piece of wood, didn't you?
The staves were cut out of 3 or 4 different pieces of wood, and they were bird mouth joints.
I'll make you bet that one of those pieces had a flaw in the grain, similar to wind shake. And when that comes apart, it takes the whole thing apart. And the reason I say that is because you said you could glue them all back together and they work perfect. That's a defect in the grain. That's not the tool. That cylinder came apart on the grain. I'm in North Carolina and we get wind shake. Some of it you can hardly see, but that board is not strong in that direction. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, and point taken, it could be. And if it was a wind shake and it split there, it went back together just like a puzzle, like it just fit perfect. So maybe that's very possible.
That's what they do, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, boy, Duxford, since you're on here, why don't you show us a little video you wanted to show?
Okay. Oh, I got a good one. I made a plain bowl. This is a plain maple bowl.
Yeah.
And I did some serpentine cuts.
Okay.
And I'm not good at videos, but and I don't have the face for a video, but anyway, let me see.
Yes, we do.
Those
eyebrows like you got, that's perfect.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can do this. I've been asked to demo this many times, and I cannot demo it on somebody else's lathe. This lathe has got to be made for this jig. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
You're now in Jim's boardroom, and we're working on a 12-inch maple bowl. These bowls are pretty plain, so it's kind of nice to put like a serpentine cut into them. This is a 5-lobe cam, 20 inches in diameter, has a 1-inch deflection on it. And what happens is, the sycamore bowl was plain too. And then I put cuts on the inside, and at 36 degrees you move it over and put cuts on the outside, and that way you can see through it, and it adds real interest.
You can't put your salad, you can't put your...
have a 4-lobe cam. Doesn't hold soup. The 4-lobe cam has an 1.5 inch deflection, so this gives you a higher peak in here, and that makes the cuts cross more perpendicular. And I found after doing this, the cuts cross perpendicular, but if you open them up and lay them out, it makes it more open area and adds more interest to the bowl. This bowl has been pre-turned, and it's 4.5 inches deep inside. I put 3 cuts in here, and there's 3 cuts on the inside. So if you zoom in on this, we can see that there's actually, you can see through it on the 2 cuts I've already made. I started 1 cut here with the cutter. This is a 13/64 cutter on a Dremel with a flexible shaft.
this head moves it around this center. You get a 90-degree on here. This whole thing goes in and out, as you'll see. The nice part of this head is it's floating and it's gravity. So I can have an OG bowl, I can have a convex or concave surface. It'll follow anything I put underneath here. Normally I wear a face shield. I can't talk through a face shield and make a good video. And I often have earplugs, but it doesn't make that much noise. I've already pre-cut this. I cut about a heavy 16th. This bowl is a 1/2 inch thick. So the inside, I've cut these inside grooves. I've made those about 1/4 inch deep. So when I cut this outside groove 1/4 inch where they cross, you can see through it, hopefully. And I also have a foot switch. Foot switch is wonderful. You plug it in when you need it, and you unplug it when you're done with it. You do not leave that plugged in, because anytime you touch that, that thing can come on. So as soon as you're done using it, you unplug it. I'll unhook this, and I bring this down. You can see it fits into there, into the previous cut. And now when I touch many passes because it's cutting by gravity. This doesn't weigh very much. And there's a reason for that, because if I start cutting too much, this whole thing's made out of wood. It's not steel, and it's not a known factor. But anyway, I'll do another couple cuts, and pretty soon those will start to open up, and I'll have cuts inside here. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Just no end to the fun.
Okay, I got some questions here. How did you make the cam?
On the bandsaw.
Cool.
The cam is really hard to make. Those lobes have got to be perfect. If there's a defect in one of those things, you get a defect in everything you do, and it's got to be absolutely perfect.
And what's the spring that holds that pulls it in? There's a spring down there someplace.
The spring underneath is a spring of my son's old weight set. It goes around. There's a spring on both sides, and it goes around to the back of the lathe. I don't know whether I can show.
How much force is that pulling in with?
I can adjust that. There's probably about 15 pounds pressure on that, I'd say.
You said you make that on the bandsaw. It's made in sections, or how?
Yes, it's made. Each one of those lobes is made in a section and put together, and they're sanded and they're waxed.
Jim, is there a roller bearing at the front of the cruciform base?
There's a what?
Is there a roller bearing, or or is it wood on wood contact between the lobes?
Roller bearing, you're getting too damn.
Wood
Hell
on
no.
wood.
It's wood on wood, okay? And it's waxed. No, it's so slow and there's so much surface area. There's also underneath here, there's also a block goes down in the waves of the lathe. I had to file on this lathe for probably at least a half a day to get the waves parallel, perfectly parallel, and the thickness perfectly thick. The thickness has got to be right because this sled fits both the width and the depth of the waves. So this actually locks on here. It's within probably 5 thousandths, the whole bed. A lot of filing, hand filing, and that's why I can't demo on somebody else's lathe. I had to show a video, but
Very cool.
that's my 2 cents. It's a lot of fun.
Questions?
That's
Anybody
really
else?
neat. How about the inside? So how does this thing mount to do the inside?
You
How
know,
does the whole
let me see if you do somebody else. I'll see if I can stop this. I
Well,
got my wife's the videographer, okay? And this is take number 636 or something. She didn't want to do the inside, but I've got a short one on the inside. I could show that.
yeah, if you can find it. I want to get to Don and Ernie if
Go.
we can. Don anyhow, because he's got a
Go.
follow-up. Let me do Don's follow-up and we'll come back to you if there's a minute or two. And Ernie, are you okay with next week? You're
I only
muted.
have a short announcement that I will be a presenter this weekend in the AAW Basics group, which I think is $35, but it's an incredible amount of video you get out of it. And we did a dress rehearsal yesterday, was fun, and it looks like it'll be a good show.
That looks like a very interesting program. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to take the spotlight off of Duxbury for a second here. Don, can you show your thing real quick?
Yep. Last week, John, you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah. Last week, you asked me about how I drilled the holes in those little pencil pots.
Yeah.
Well, what I've done is the piece of wood that you can see has the dowel which fits into your banjo. And there's a metal ring in here. Yeah. And these 3 pieces are 1/2 inch, 3/8 and 1/4 hole. They fit into the ring.
And that's your drill guide.
This is my guide, yes. Come on, move.
No, where did you get those metal pieces? Did you make them?
Yes. There we go. I'll just show you the side of it. My grandson made those for me. He works in a big machine shop, so he just made these for me to fit into that metal ring that you saw before. And then this fits into the banjo like so. There's the ring. I have a little Allen key on the top, which I screwed down so that it locks that in place so that it's fixed at that center point. And then the last photo shows you it in place on the lathe through the banjo with a drill going through with the hole, and the drill's the size of the hole of that metal dolly. And of course, you've got it on center and you just drill in, turn it round on your indexer to your next hole and drill again.
Very clever, Don. Very clever. That's a great little device. Questions for Don?
Don, can you do the holes at an angle with your rig? I think it would be neat to be able to see some of those pencils at angles.
Yes, you can do angles because all you got to do is turn your dolly to an angle what you want, and then the drill will be kept straight to go in an angle on the hole.
And Barry says in the chat that McMaster Carr sells hardened steel bushings that will do that same job, so you don't have to have a grandson who'll turn them for you.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, I could have done it myself in the machine shop that we had at my works, but since retiring, I've lost it. So my grandson's very lucky, and he works and he can turn them during his lunchtime for me.
Nice. Any other questions? All right, we're right on 11 o'clock. Duxbury, did you find anything you want to show us?
No, I'm still frozen. I can't get out of this darn
Okay.
thing.
Well, I think the answer is that that contraption looks like it would fit inside the same way. It would operate in a very similar way. Is that right?
No, I in the center of this, I have a chuck, and you can see there's a tenon on that, or
Yeah.
there's a tenon still on the bowl. I'll try to show it next week. I can't get
Okay.
out. The damn thing's stuck on this screen. I can't get out of it.
Okay. That's what happens sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we've whiled away another lovely hour. Thank you very much for your participation and interest. And we will see you all next week.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.